I think you were ill last week or something.
Yeah, oh man, it's almost gone. I've got a cough that I just can't seem to get rid of. Um, but like 2 Saturdays ago, like I got up and my temperature just started rising and it was 101 and it was 102 and it was 103 and I had the chills and I had headaches and everything that pointed towards COVID. Um, and so I had a test done through my primary care thing and it came back negative. And they were like, well, you're showing the symptoms anyway. So basically just quarantine for 10 or 14 days. And then my wife had a test and she came back negative. So either it was a cold or it was it, but either way, I don't know how the hell I got it. Cause it's just like, I go from my studio to home and those are the only two places I go. And I don't see anybody really except for my wife. So I don't know. I'm just glad it's gone.
We won't go down that road too far.
Oh.
Was you gonna say the milkman?
How is everybody today?
There he is.
I'm good.
Mostly okay. How are you?
Good. Pretty good. Getting real close to getting this house thing wrapped up. They put our new stuff in the kitchen yesterday, and painter comes on Monday. He's going to paint the house, the inside and interior of the house. So hopefully,
are you doing like a super thorough top to bottom like redo, or you're just cleaning stuff up?
We've got a guy coming in. We're putting in new ceiling fans, new lighting fixtures. We put in all new kitchen sink and cabinets, etc. Having the floor cleaned and resealed. And right now everything's in boxes in our bedrooms, and all the furniture is pushed to the middle of the room so they can paint it. So it's pretty miserable. It'll be pretty crappy for the next week, and then hopefully looks like Thursday or Friday to start moving stuff back into the rooms and building the furniture. I got 5 pieces of IKEA furniture to build. So I figured that'll take me through August. But
I miss IKEA. I miss going to IKEA. Remember when people used to go to places like stores and IKEA?
Oh yeah, well,
Swedish babies. Oh, I miss their meatballs.
We went to IKEA 2 weeks ago to get the stuff that we're doing in the family room, and place was packed. I mean, literally packed. Absolutely. Well, we had to wait for a cart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So people are not staying away. So, all right. Well, welcome everybody. Sid and I were talking. We thought we would do a kind of a fun one today, and find out from you guys, what's your favorite photo thing? Favorite photo book or lens, camera, thingy bob, something that you just absolutely adore. And while people are getting ready there, Sid, why don't you start out?
I got a couple of things that I put together. The first thing was I still have a fridge full of Ilford Delta 3200 when I was in college 20 something years ago. I love grainy shots. Like I want my images to look like New England roads in the winter, just covered in salt and grain.
I just saw a video on YouTube by a guy who was just loving on grain, and he shoots the Nikon or the Canon. I'm sorry, the Kodak 3200. Mm-hmm. I used to shoot a ton of that stuff. I did not know it was still available, and it is. The Kodak you can still buy the Kodak.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you can buy the Ilford or not, but you can buy the Kodak.
Is it like rebranded Kodak?
No,
is it like new?
No, Kodak 32.
Oh.
Yeah, Amazon has it for 5 rolls for $40.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I don't shoot super grainy, because it's just like clients are always like, "What's wrong with my images?" I just love this stuff. I love grain. I love it. And then the other thing I pulled out was my FP 3000B, which is a high grain Polaroid pack film, and they stopped making this stupid stuff. So I have a fridge full of it because it's just like, the minute they announce they're not going to make it something anymore,
Yep.
you go into panic mode. It's just like, I need to buy 5,000 boxes of them. So I have a fridge full of these, and occasionally, usually like during a portrait session, if I feel really motivated, I'll bust out my 4x5, and this is what this is for. And once I know the session's done, I'll just be like, oh, just hang out with me for another 10 minutes and let me just set this giant camera up, and I'll pull a couple of black and whites and I'll give them one that they can go home
Now,
with.
is that the 4x5 or the 6x7?
This is the 4x5. So it sits in my Toyo 4x5 field camera, and then I have a 4x5 back for. This is I'm wrong. This is 8.5 by 10.8 centimeters. So what is that? I'm terrible with math.
That's
It's a little smaller than 4x5.
yeah, it's 6x7, isn't it?
Something.
It's about this big. Yay big. There's a lot of space around it, or
no, it's got small sides. I've got a back from my Hasselblad that basically gives you this little tiny square,
right.
and then the rest of the thing turns black. But again, I just love grain. I love, like, it's almost like playing connect the dots on my pictures.
Yeah.
Like I love it. I love it.
Yeah, you can get the Kodak 3200 T-Max Professional 35, but they don't have it in 120. So
love my film.
yeah,
And then I just had two other things really quick. This is an old Canon FD 100mm macro lens. It's so the story behind this lens was 12 years ago or something like that. We used to have a mom and pop camera store on my main street, and so I went in a couple of days a week. It was 3 generations. They had been open for like 70 something years, and the grandfather never threw stuff away. So he had like stuff that should have been returned. It was just sitting in their basement. Moved to a new building. They asked me to come in a couple of days a week and take stuff from the basement and basically list it on eBay to try to make some space and everything. And then they also had this giant box of stuff that people would bring in to have repaired. And every once in a while, they just would never claim it, or they would leave it, and then they would get an estimate, and then they'd be like, oh, that's too expensive. And then they just wouldn't bother picking this stuff up. So I was cleaning through the box one day, and there was this 100mm macro, and it's like the switches had fallen off and the AF doesn't work anymore. It was just crap. And so the owner of the camera shop, I kept pawing over, because it was just like, oh, up to this point, I've only been using a 50mm and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, why don't you just take it and play with it a little bit? And I played with it for a weekend, and it was beautiful. Like, despite that it's all beat to hell, it was just perfect. So I brought it back, and he was just like, well, why don't just hold on to it for, till I ask for it back. And he never asked for it back. So I have used this, like, almost all of my toy macro stuff that I've done was done with this lens. I don't use it anymore. I upgraded to the new the Canon L whatever. But this sits on my shelf back here, and I just love this lens. Like, it means so much. Like, it's shot so many images for me. I just love it. I love it. It's got like a little built-in hood, I love it. And then the last thing I have is my very first flash. This is my Sunpack 120J. I have named it Frankenstein because it has fallen in 2 pieces twice now. It used to be able to pivot and turn, and it no longer does that because it's held together by balsa wood and JB Weld. And it's so wrapped. It's like a mummy at this point. And I love it. Like, if my studio caught fire, this would be the first thing that I would grab. Like, I could do anything with this flash. And I did for a long time. I did just about everything with this flash. I just love this thing to death, and it's so beat to hell. But again, it's just like, I love it. It's just mine. Like, I just want to hug it. I just love it.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. Who else wants to tell us about their favorite photo thingy?
Well, before somebody steals my thunder, I want to say that my favorite photo book in the entire world.
Wow. That was overt.
That one, of course, is a good book. And then this one here,
Yeah.
Yep.
Now that one I understand. The other one, Mark, I'm confused by.
I've had that thing forever. I think I've had that since about the time you came to Columbus. I have that food book, in my car when I'm in between rides. The one that's got the great big burger on the front of it, like
Oh,
the
yeah.
Bible of food.
The food book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the food book.
Yeah.
And I have another one. I don't know where it's at. I was trying to find it. It's kind of like the Secrets of Still Life Photography one.
Oh, Gene's showing something. Is that it?
Yeah. Yep, that is the food.
That's
book.
it.
Look at that burger.
Boy, if you're styling food and you can't figure out how to do it and it's not in that book, it can't be done.
You got to find the book though. It's hard to find because it's out of print.
It is out of print, but you can, if you go up to some of the used bookstores, things online, you can find it pretty darn cheap. I saw one in Flagstaff, at the used bookstore in Flagstaff. We were on my wife and I were on our Salt Lake City, and I didn't want to buy it and put it in the car for the trip, which was stupid because I figured, well, who's going to buy it, right? We came back by it was gone. It was $14. $14. So I paid like, I think 75 for the damn thing. Ah,
don't have
okay.
any-
Who else?
I'll share a little story, Don. Sometimes every once in a while you run across a service, somebody providing a product or a service that actually delivers on what they say.
Uh-huh.
It's value for dollars. And this company, some of you may be aware of it, is Zeno, Z-N-O, out of San Francisco.
Oh, the
Yeah.
book printer?
Sorry?
The printer?
Yeah, that by a group of photographers started the company, I believe about 8 years ago. Maybe even been less than that. They saw some of my work, I think, on Instagram, and they reached out to me and offered me a free 20-page flat book
Yep.
to try out, right? And so I said, okay, I'll do that. And so I sent in a bunch of, I do a lot of digital artistry as well. So I think, of course, it's really easy to use. You can set up your templates by page, your background by page. 39 images is what I stuck into the 20 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Here, you could do more than that, but I was experimenting really. I just want to see without getting too small with some of the photos. Within days, it was at my door, and the quality is fantastic. And it's one of these flat lays, right? So they're all images go right across the center. Does a really nice job. No binding. So if anybody's interested in doing their work, whether it's for special events or whatever, I'm certainly a proponent of these guys. Really fine service and relatively inexpensive as compared to many, right? So
20 by 24.
The book was 8 by 8, 20 pages, and I put in 39 images using the templates they provide. It's all done online, real slick, real easy.
To give you an idea, the print price is a 20 by 24 on luster paper, which is real photographic paper.
Yeah.
Packed in a tube to send it to you is $23, on sale for $17. That's pretty inexpensive for a 20 by 24.
Or that's for an image you're talking about.
That's just the print, yeah.
Yeah.
$17.75 shipped. We're all worldwide shipping at $5. So $5 on there. Wow.
Is that the company you're talking about, Don?
Yeah, the same one.
I'm
ZNO.
sorry, could you say ZNO?
Yeah,
ZNO.com. That's it.
Yeah. ZNO.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank you, Richard.
It's Rick. I can't change my name on this. I guess I could go back to the.
Oh, no problem. I'm very formal, Rick.
You can get images front and back. You can get whatever you want on the spline.
Very cool.
So how do they bind something if it lays perfectly flat like that? Like does it?
Well, that's the technology. I mean, I can't actually see inside too well, but that's their thing. I mean, there's others that provide a flat.
Just a spread on 2 pages. Okay. And then on the inside, it's just, they're glued to each other with this real interesting kind of way. So when you open it, it
Oh.
brings the next one up.
Oh, okay. All
Very,
right.
very cool. Yeah.
Huh.
Started
very
with wedding albums, but now it's moved over to regular books.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
everybody's doing it.
But the quality, and I'll tell you what, Don, I mean, I'm here in Calgary, okay? So that's, I ordered, I swear it was 4 or 5 days later, the doorbell's ringing and it's here.
Yeah, pretty
I mean,
nice.
bells, man. And,
I'm gonna have to give them a try. I have not tried them, but I'm gonna give them a try. I'm looking to get some things done. Oh, they'll do it on metallic too, guys. Look at that. They got
They will?
metallic.
yeah,
Oh, cool.
Metallic. Oh, 20 by 24 metallic, $28.
Wow.
That's good.
Wow.
Yep.
20 by 24.
I guess the story is formed by a number of photographers that just got disappointed dealing with print houses and the ROES software, which is archaic and hard to use, confusing. So they stepped out and created their own company. I think it was named something different initially. They went through a name change, so Zeno today.
All right. Well,
A bunch of photographers, and their whole idea was quality, professionalism at best price possible.
yeah, great. Looks like a nice lab. Thanks, man.
You bet.
Thanks, man. Though they got a pro system too for people who do a lot of stuff. You get
Yeah.
discount samples and all kinds of other things.
It's kind of
Cool.
it's like a loyalty program, just about, right? That
Yeah,
program.
yeah. If you spend $1,000 with them, you get 10% off. If you spend 2,500, it's 15% off. Now you can imagine if you're a wedding photographer, you're going to blow through. You get 25% off of $5,000. You're going to hit $5,000 in a month.
Yeah.
I mean, you start doing these wedding albums. You know, they're big and expensive and the whole bit. Yeah, very cool. Thanks.
Bet.
Who else? Who else has something?
Found the other book I was looking for.
And what book is that?
It's called Pro Lighting, New Product Shots from Alex Larg and Jane Wood. And it's kind of set up like the Gary Perwheeler book, where it goes through descriptions of all the different stuff, and it shows you the shot,
Right.
and then it shows you kind of the behind the scenes sketch. You know, of course, it's an older one, so they're using a 8 by 10, but still same philosophy.
Absolutely.
From
What is that one again, Mark?
it's called Pro Lighting, New Product Shots.
Okay.
Alex Larg and Jane Wood. I've had this thing for forever.
It's funny how we will all find something that we really like and we just don't part with it. And sometimes I don't know if it's the best thing that we find that we can't part with. It's the thing that relates to us the most. The thing that we really get. I'll share 3 books with you. One is Sid, you're gonna probably hit the floor. I have an original copy of Mrs. David Bailey by David Bailey. It has been out of print for 30 something years. And on eBay, this book is going for like little under $900.
Oh,
And I'm not going to part with it. These are David Bailey's pictures of his wife when she still was his wife, obviously not married anymore. And they just changed everything I thought about photography. Now, in he was very poor, David Bailey. He must have been extremely poor because this poor girl doesn't have anything to wear. Just, I think she's got a pair of shoes and yeah, that's pretty much it. But it changed the whole way because it's all natural light, but it looks like studio. And it's, as Sid said, it's grainy as hell. You know, it's Tri-X, for God's sake. You know, I don't know if you can see the grain in there.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, it's big, thick, sand your car grain. So I love that book. Really do. That's an old one from a long time ago. Changed everything. And then another one from just about that same period that I stumbled onto was a guy named Paul Strand.
Mm-hmm.
And Strand is one of the big movers and shakers in the industry. I was turned on to Strand's work because I went to one of those portfolio review things in Santa Fe where they look at it, and I was told my work looked like Paul Strand. To which I replied, "Cool! I had no idea who they're talking with, you know, that about." So I actually ran down to the bookstore there in Santa Fe and bought this book on Paul Strand. And I mean, I could see some stuff, but I mean, this portrait and stuff. I love shooting people sitting or standing and looking right at me. I had a lot of that, you know. I had Native Americans. I had migrant workers and stuff. A lot of people. I had real people in fashion. 2 books, and I got literally no response on the fashion because as much as I thought I was really good, I still lived in Phoenix, you know, and it's like, it's not New York. And this one is called The Road to Seeing by Dan Winter. It's a little book. It was 2 years late getting to the printer because Dan kept adding things to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it came in, it's like the biggest book I own thickness wise. And he would not let anything be taken out of it. So he wrote and did pictures, and it's just really, really incredible. Recognize these pictures of Helen Mirren. It's all philosophy. There's nothing in here about where he put his light dish and, you know, where the bounce card was and everything. He doesn't care. Doesn't care.
Yeah.
But what fascinated me so much about it is that I see these pictures, these portraits, and they're in these really cool locations. Well, it turns out he builds all the sets.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't go and find a location. He gets something in his head and he builds it.
Yep.
That blew me away. I didn't think anybody was still doing that stuff, but he does. He'll find an old barn and then he'll go and get a bunch of props and have it brought in and have somebody build something to make it look the way he wants it to look. Pretty fascinating.
Yep.
So those are my 3 favorite books. If you ask my favorite camera, it depends on which day you ask. Probably my 8x10 for sure would be in the list, and the F3. My Fuji.
If the studio was on fire and you had only time to grab one thing, what would you go for?
Just one thing?
Just like, oh my God, I gotta, what would you reach? Just instinctively.
I probably would grab the 8x10.
Yeah.
And probably because it's irreplaceable. I can go on eBay and find another F3. Wouldn't be my F3, but I can find another F3 and some lenses. You can't go on eBay and find a Deerdorf that has been with me for 40 some odd years. So and if you did, it'd be very expensive and it'd be, you know, wouldn't have the same feel of mine. So I'd probably grab that. And if it wasn't that, it would be the Fuji. The Fuji kit. Of course, the Fuji kit's so big, I have to take 3 trips back in. So the burning building would be coming down. I got to get the lens box.
Just hold on. I'm not done yet.
Hold on. I'm not finished.
I wanted to mention this book. Do I have to do a screen share for this?
It looks like you're carrying a can of paint. You can't see the book with your
background. Your background is
okay. In any case, it's a book about Art Kane, and Don did an hour talk about him a couple weeks ago.
10 minutes.
And I looked up and found this book from like 1977 or thereabouts.
Uh-huh.
That is part of a Time Life series on photography and photographers. And it is about the best book on photography that I have yet to come across. Why is that? One is about him and what he does and how he does it, but it's also in the back, it actually goes over every shot and talks about the story of every shot that he did. So it's truly remarkable. If you could pick it up, please,
Again,
you'll be very happy that you have it.
The used bookstore that I use gets them every once in a while. You can go there and tell them what you want, and they'll send you an email when one comes in. So I can't think. I will find the name of that bookstore. But I just got 2 books from them, and I'm looking here to see where I put them. And of course, I can't find it. I just got the same series that you have.
Yeah.
My Dwayne Michaels was lost in a move, and I just replaced my Dwayne Michaels for $4, which was pretty amazing. So
I mean, he did stuff like Dan Winters in that he constructed these actual sets that are just incredible. So he just built his whole world. So, I mean, it makes you really stop and say, okay, this is what this guy was about.
by the way, he was also an art director.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He was also an art director. Anybody else want to share something that they like, some particular piece of gear that you just absolutely love? I'll take a moment and mention my Canon 135 millimeter f2.0 lens.
I do, Don.
Hey, what's that, Gene?
So I've been going through a bunch of old pictures, much like Mark talked about last week, and realized that I was looking at pictures that I took before my 6D, and then I got my Canon 6D, and it came with a lens that had one of those little red stripes around the barrel of the lens.
Yeah.
And people had told me that L glass was going to change my life. I said, nah, it's all about the camera. It's all about it's not about the camera. It's about the person behind the camera, blah, blah, blah. Holy crap. I took 2 cameras with me on this big trip, and one was my old camera, and then there was my 6D. I don't even want to look at the pictures from the other camera. And now I have a whole bunch of those lenses that have that little red ring around the barrel of the lens. I wouldn't give up any of them. And so I would say that for me, things that matter. You ask what I'd grab out of a burning building. I have a camera next to me right now. I would grab that camera and my lens bag on the way out. I don't care about the rest. Those are where my lens, that's what I need. Because those lenses are amazing. And it's Canon's fault because they sold me one on the front of the 6D.
You got
came with an L lens.
You got the same one that I did. You got the 24 to 105.
That's what came with it. I love the 24 to 70. I use it more. My 100 millimeter macro is an L lens. I don't think I have all of my lenses since then. I don't think I've bought anything that wasn't an L lens.
The 24 to 105, if I'm going to go somewhere that I know I'm going to be doing some editorial, or I don't want to carry heavy, that's the lens I take. I'll take
it. That's my walkabout. Absolutely.
And I'll take the 135 f2 in a little bag on my hip. And if I can't do it with those 2 lenses, I'm not worried about it. As far as depth of field, people go, oh, well, it's not a 2.8. And I think, well, yeah, you haven't been a photographer very long, because that's not how it works, folks. But good luck with that. If I took a headshot at 120 millimeters at f4, you'd be really hard pressed to see a difference at 2.8. Am I right, Sid?
Yeah.
Unless you would notice that the f4 would probably be a little sharper than 2.
Yeah.
Somewhere in a 2.8, something would be out of focus.
When I started shooting headshots, I got obsessed with shooting at 2.8 and f2. I picked up that 135, and I was just like, oh my god, everything's going to be at f2. And at some point, you just it's like you have to get past that need to have slim depth of field. I know people that that's all they shoot is at 2.8. It's just like, did you ever shoot at f8? And they're just like, what are you talking about, f8? What is that? But at some point, I started shooting headshots, and my sweet spot for headshots are right around 5.6. That way I've got from nose to just about the back of the ear is in focus, even if they start to move back and forth a little bit.
I was one of those fast shooters. I shot headshots at 200, 2.8, and I'd get the girl sideways, and this part of her face would be in focus, and this eye would be going out. It's part of my style back in the back when I was shooting in the early 20s. It was, no, it wasn't quite that long ago. But anyway, back in the 70s and during the 80s, it was part of my style. Now it wouldn't fit. It wouldn't
Yep.
fit at all because no one's doing that. Literally, no one's doing that right now. It had its day, and we moved on. I like the face to be in focus, so I'm usually like at 120 at 5.6, somewhere in there, somewhere between 4.5 and 8. And if my subject is far enough from the background, then I have great, wonderful out of focus background. You can't put that thing that's 30 feet behind them in focus at f5.6. Just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So.
But the bokehs.
I don't use that term. I hate that word.
The bouquets, whatever they call it. Bokeh.
Stop.
So much bokeh.
I do not
No.
do bokeh.
No.
I don't know where the hell that came from. But take it back. I also don't use the term time for prints. Is this a TFP? No, it's a test. Like, grow the hell up.
Oh.
My favorite is off-camera flash, by the way. Off-camera flash. Because I can't tell you how many times I mounted that Norman 2000 pack on my camera. Said, that's how I got guns like this, baby. Putting that 45-pound pack up and hold that camera steady. It's like off-camera flash. I thought it was a joke when I first heard it. Like, it was like an inside, like, ah, ha, ha. And it was like real. I was like, wow. Makes no sense. No one lights from the camera except photojournalists and wedding photographers.
I don't know. I see a lot of shots that look like they were.
Well,
you can see that weird direct flash thing. Like it's basically fill, but it's
now
they use it as a primary.
Now it's become it's hip again. I mean, Terry Richardson, Jürgen Teller, a handful of other people that I can think of. That's that on-camera flash is part of their look. Timothy Hetherington. He's got that flash mounted right on top of that Canon. And that's what he wants. That's what he gets.
It's nice to not have to worry about a ring light. Like it's nice that like David LaChapelle did his whole 80s ring light thing and then it kind of died off.
I hate
it. Every once in a while it springs back up and you see people and they're just like, but then it goes away again. So
well, I don't like ring lights, but I do put my 60-inch umbrella on camera axis. And it's generally in front of the camera. And then I'll position the camera. I'll have to come up into the umbrella with the lens. The lens comes up and it touches the umbrella and balloons it up a little bit. Okay. I love that on axis beauty lighting. It's all I did in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. On axis beauty lighting. But I didn't like ring lights because I think that ring in the eye it kills. You know what it kills? It kills emotionality.
Yeah.
Is that a word? We're gonna go with it. It kills emotionality. It's not, you just see that ring and there's no emotional impact. My belief is every time you add a light past 1, you start lessening the emotional response of the image.
Yeah.
Maybe a hair light, I'll give that a pass because that happens. But then you add that special and another special and a grid spot here. And the emotion of that photograph is lost because we're not stupid. We know that those are added. One light looks real. More than that, that doesn't make it wrong. I'm just saying, for me, it removes the emotion.
Do you notice,
if you overlight something.
Yep.
Well, when you start overlighting people too, as soon like one light, a flash, they're okay with. You put on an umbrella and it makes them a little uncomfortable. You start getting a umbrella and then a reflector, then they get a little bit more uncomfortable. The more stuff that you have around them, the more your subject kind of is like, checking out because it doesn't feel natural to them either.
Yep.
That's where you come in though, Mark. That's where you got to massage them and you got to make them feel relaxed and you got to
let them know
that's the whole personality part. Talk about how great their bokeh looks.
But it's off camera. It's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What else? Anybody else? Nobody else has a favorite anything?
Well, I've
That's
got
on
one.
there.
It's,
All right,
it's,
yeah.
good. It's very lowbrow. I like the LED on the back of my camera. So I'd have to take the camera to be able to take it out of the burning building, but I have, as a matter of fact, so this is, I've got this Nikon, it's a D7500, and I really miss it because I've moved up to the D810, and that one is just flat on the back of the camera, and I miss my articulating LED.
Oh,
It was
fancy
like-
screen.
It was so functional. It was so terrific. So I understand they have it on the D850. Not sure if that's really the reason why you should get a new camera, but at the same time, I miss it. I miss
Well,
it very much.
I had to decide whether I was going to get a used 5D Mark III or a new 6D. And I decided on the new 6D because of the articulating screen.
That's why I want to switch to Canon.
Once you have one, oh my gosh. Once you have it, it's just amazing.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I think the other thing I like is tripods, but the head on the tripod, I love the leveling bubble. I think that's really helpful. And at this point, I've got 3 tripods with different heads. And I find that every time I get a new one, I get a greater appreciation for the functionality of everything, of how easy it is to put your camera on and off, to how, more than stability, just the functionality of it is.
Yeah, a good tripod is something that you have with you for, I know people who change cameras a lot, but they don't change tripods a lot.
Yeah.
You get a tripod that you like, you stay with it.
Yep. Well, I think I'm there. I'm thinking there. I got this one that I have, I really, really like, and I probably will stay with this one for some time, just because it's so smooth and it's so stable and it's easy to use.
So if you only had one lens there, Lauren, you only had to choose one lens. You could only take one lens with you. What would it be, buddy? You're gonna go for a road trip for a week. Take one lens.
It'd be my 51.8. That's the only lens that I've got that's actually meant for the full frame camera.
Oh, you're gonna have to fix that.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to pull the trigger on a 24 to 120.
All right, go. There you go. You're gonna get it new or used?
Used.
Yeah, I got mine used, and I couldn't believe it was used. It looked absolutely brand new. I got it from a wedding photographer. And she said she rarely ever used it because it wasn't a 2.8.
So yeah, that's the lens that I'm getting ready to order.
If you could work in the studio for 20 years with that lens.
Yeah.
Pretty much. It's got a little bit of a bow at 24, a little bit of a, but with software now, it takes it right out. Lightroom Capture One it's gone. So not like lenses of old that I had a, what was it? The 21 millimeter Nikkor. They got rid of it in place of the 20 millimeter Nikkor, but the 21 millimeter Nikkor, when you'd shoot a building like this, you were like in a pipe. They just were like really rounded, man. It was terrible. Just the sides, not the tops. The tops, the circle of confusion would go way above that, but on the sides it was really, really bad. 21 with a 20 is much better.
Hey, Don.
Yes.
On that correction in Lightroom, is that when you enable the profile correction?
That's part of it. Yes. And if on some lenses that you have, when you enable the profile correction, you'll see a huge correction, and some you won't see much at all. But it does color and distortion.
Yep. I see actually a pretty big difference. I'm using that on my 2470. So.
Your Nikon 2470?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that lens. I've heard it's really, really good. I'm not familiar with it.
Oh, not familiar with it? Yeah. Well, it's a great lens. It's a little heavy, but it's but that's okay. Does a great job.
Yep.
Yeah, let me make sure I've got the right number here.
Now you could get rid of that and get a 24, a 28, a 35, a 50, a 60, an 85, a 100, and a 135. I mean,
Rhyme
a
it
little
up.
heavier,
That'd
slightly
be very heavy.
heavier
Yeah.
by about
Yep.
48 pounds, but still.
Yep. Are you trying to tell me not to whine? Okay, I got it. No, good stuff.
Yeah, excellent. Lee, how about you? What's your favorite lens? Because I know Lee has got a photojournalistic past, right? Lee,
Yes.
yeah, she's really, really good. I've seen a couple of her photojournalism stories, and they're really, really good.
Thank you.
So if you had to leave, I'm going to guess.
What's my okay? Guess.
I'm going to write it down and see how close we are, right?
Okay.
Dawn, while you're writing it down, she's not going to have to grab any of them because they're already in the car.
Yep.
Right.
It's on the other side of this one. Let me see if I'm right.
I have
Go
a
ahead.
camera in the car, Sid. I've got it with me all the
Let
time.
me see. If you are, where are you?
No, I didn't. I'm not going to show you until you say, so you'll know that if I guess.
Oh, I was saying my 35. 35. I love my 35.
Right, 35.
Yeah.
Good Johnny Carson over here.
35. It's a great lens because it's small, so nobody yells at you. Nobody pays attention to you, so you can photograph because great length of f-stops, and I just love it. Just easy to use. Yes, I see it.
If I could only take one lens on a trip, it would be my 35 f2. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's the lens to take because you want to go closer, just
Yeah,
zoom walking. That's for
Use
sure.
your feet. Yep.
You know, we're always
use the
we're always
zoom
told that the 50 is the normal lens. That's the way that they say we see normally. No, I think it's a 35. When I put the 50 up, it seems like it brings things closer. When I put the 35, I look at the scene, I put the 35 up, it's pretty much what I'm looking at.
Yes, yes. And I love the how the 35 focuses, and it's just a great lens. I love it. You got it right. And I think for photojournalists, that's the lens to have. I also have the 23, which is the equivalent of 35, but you know.
Yeah.
Love it. It's a little wider. Kind of gives you sense of environment.
Yes, that's what. Yep, it brings in your surroundings. You can come close enough to do a portrait. Not I can't. I could never do a headshot on a 35. It just doesn't feel right. But you can do a nice, half portrait with them without too much distortion coming into it.
Yeah.
It just seems like the right lens for me for that overall walking around.
Yes. Yes, you're absolutely right.
Anybody recall a book that you picked up and made you think this is why I want to be a photographer?
Oh, I do. I remember I have several books. I have a book called The Italians. Another book, Kurt Marcus, the photograph of the story about all the cowboys and the rodeo cowboys, Kurt Marcus.
You are the very first Project 52 member to ever mention Kurt Marcus.
Oh, I think he's tremendous. I started with him. He's tremendous.
What a
And
talent.
I remember I was talking to him and I said, I want to tell the stories. I want to say something. And I remember, and he told me, and I said, well, just go and do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, duh. I'm like, you're absolutely right. And actually, because of him, I did Vulnerable Dreamers. He was the inspiration. So there you go.
For those of you who don't know Kurt Marcus, he was a sports photographer, a fashion photographer, a cowboy photographer, lifestyle photographer, advertising photographer. I'll share the screen here.
He does a lot of environmental portraits.
There's just nothing this guy hasn't done, and he's just really good at it. But you know what Kurt has that that most of us don't have? He has that absolutely incredible work ethic that
Yes.
and he doesn't care about what box somebody has put him into. Doesn't care.
No, he
Doesn't care. No, he doesn't even live in New York, folks. He did for a while because you get started there. He lives in Montana. And
actually now he lives in Santa Fe now.
that's right. So I was going
He
to say,
moved
I
from
think he moved
Montana to Santa Fe.
yeah, but his ranch is still in Montana. That's right. He lives
Yes.
in Santa Fe, but his ranch is still in Montana. And you'll see, he'll shoot for Vogue, and he'll bring the models up to Montana and New Mexico and shoot them there. I mean, he's just a really interesting guy. Here's a photograph from his cowboy series. Literally.
And what you love about Kirk is he has such an elegance and simplicity, but it's kind of, if you see his photographs are kind of deep. There is something deep about it, even though they're simple. There's a depth to it that is kind of
part of it is
to have.
Part of it is he shoots a 35 millimeter, a 50, and an 85, and that's it. You rarely are going to see a Kurt Marcus shot done at 200 or 300 millimeters. You're almost never going to see one on a 20 millimeter. He shoots the world very authentically. And even though he's very good with strobe, he knows his way around a strobe. Most of his stuff is natural light. When I think of Kurt Marcus, the very first time I saw him, I never met him, but I saw him. He was a guy in a cowboy hat, black cowboy shirt, and he had a Nikon up to his face, and he was taking pictures just like that. That was it. No big bag of lenses, no bunch of assistants around him, nothing. He was just taking pictures, and I was blown away.
He's super, super simple. Very, very nice guy. Very good teacher too.
Yep, and very much black and white.
I feel lucky.
Very much black and white. Well, that's very good.
Yeah, totally.
Kurt Marcus has always been a top in my top 10, top 20, at least top 10 or top 20. I just like everything about him.
But if you know Kurt, you know Norman Moscow, which is very similar. They have really similar styles. However, Norman is I think he's kind of more movable. Kirk is aesthetic. His aesthetics are very, very nice, very well presented, very nice. And Norman adds more to it, has more mobility. Kirk shoots with tripods most of the time, and Norman can barely even see a tripod, will not use a tripod. He moves all over the place, and you can see it in his images. Shoots from the hip, shoots from the floor, shoots from the top. He cannot use a tripod at all. And even though the similarities is they're very interesting. There's the opposites of it, but they're very similar as well. So
I think what attracted me to Kurt's work was his absolute homage to classic composition.
Totally,
He's not twisting the camera. He's not, he'll put the subject right there in the doorway of the Adobe house and come back, and it's centered. It's just but you know what's really cool? What's really cool is that Kurt Marcus was just like every other photographer, but Kurt never stopped himself and said, "Oh well, I'm not famous. I can't sell print." He was like, "No, I'm gonna sell prints. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go to galleries with my stuff." The work ethic is off the wall. If Kurt Marcus could do that, a kid from Montana, a guy, he was an adult when he went to New York. A guy from Montana can do that, then you can too. I just did the my recent why this photograph is great is about David. Oh crap!
David Hamilton.
Eustace, David Eustace, a photographer from Scotland. And I mean, you talk about fashion, lifestyle, landscape, portrait, prints on for sale, everything. David Eustace, he didn't even pick up a camera until he was 28 years old. But he never let anybody else define him. He didn't allow it. Like when you start defining yourself over your age or where you come from, oh, I can't be a photographer. I come from this place. Well, David never did that. David just said, oh, here's what cool photographers are doing. I'm going to do that. And he just did it. Just did it. Yeah, David Eustace, one of my, very much like Kurt Marcus, Lee. Very much like Kurt Marcus. Check him out. Kurt's going to be on my show as well.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, he's definitely definitely going to be one of the people I talk about.
He's tremendous. He's tremendous. Love it. Yeah.
All right.
I got 2 books I want to sneak in. Am I on?
Please, please, buddy.
Okay, we're okay. First one is it's called Elgin Park, and it's by a guy called Michael Paul Smith, who's actually in Massachusetts. He just passed away a few years ago. This guy is insane with forced perspective miniature shots. So like the cover of the, so he creates these little tiny towns.
Oh yeah, I've seen his work.
Oh,
And he takes a piece of foam core and he colors the foam core so that it looks like you know, like if he's outside, it looks like asphalt. And then just through forced perspective, let me see if I can show an example here.
He builds a little set and then he shoots it in the world.
Yeah, yeah. So he'll find like real locations, and then like he takes this little piece of foam core that he paints gray so it looks like the street, and then just through forced perspective, he just angles the stuff so that it looks like the road, but the backgrounds are all real environments. And he makes all these little tiny cars, and he's so good. He's so crazy good. So this book came out a few years ago, and it's pretty thorough. It's got a lot of his stuff in it, but like the picture on the back, like, so he makes this little model thing, and he's got all these little cars, and he makes all these little covers for him and stuff. And then he just lowers himself down towards the ground, and he uses this as the road, and then he just blends in real life back. It's insane. It's so good.
He's like using a 24 millimeter, right? So
yeah. He gets down level with like the table, and then he just composes so that the foam core looks like the road, and the cars in the perspective, like the cars are closer to the camera. So it's just so good. And he created he was very introverted. And so he basically just created this city that existed only in his mind, and he populated that. But definitely I'll write it down in the show notes here, but it's Elgin Park is the name of the book.
I remember seeing a picture. He had a couple of little old cars with the hoods raised and flat tire and everything sitting there with a garage behind it. And
it was a real garage.
The garage, right?
Yeah.
But the garage is real.
Yeah, it was all real locations.
It's big.
He's so good. He's so good. And we just lost him. He did like a 1950s one with a flying saucer. It was fantastic. Like this is all. So like the trucks are not real, and the spaceship isn't real, but like the background, the trees and the landscape are all real. And then the pavement, it's just a piece of foam core that's just natural because of the fall. It's so good. He's so good.
Which book is that?
This is Elgin Park. It's called Elgin Park, and it's by Michael Paul Smith.
I found another one that's got a different cover where it's got an Ideal American Town hardcover.
Oh, that might be. I don't know if they put out a new one or if that's the one before it, or
it's got the same miniature.
It's his stuff is so good. It's totally worth picking up, especially now. You know, he's not with us anymore, so he's not going to be making any new work. But it's so good. It's somebody that loves to shoot miniatures and stuff. Like this, oh my God, I just drool over this stuff. And
back in the late 70s, there was a photographer who made all the rounds of the magazine, had prints in galleries and stuff. I can't remember the name of him. I'm going to find it somewhere because I know I kept one of those issues of his work. And then he just sort of disappeared. What he would do is he'd take a Norman 200B, battery Norman. Sid knows what that is. It's just a battery strobe, folks. He'd take that on a stand or in his hand, and he'd set up his 8x10 camera up on the cliff overlooking the sand, right? Then he would go out on the sand and he would dance. He'd do a circle. So he'd draw it in the sand with his foot lightly, and he'd go here and he'd take the flash and he would flash himself with it. And he'd move over and he'd flash himself with it. Then he'd get a boat and he'd move the boat, haul the boat through the picture, flashing the boat, flash the boat, flash. The 8x10 sitting up there in the dark, all it's recording, you know,
It's just the flashes.
at F45, because he's got his Dorman 200B on full power, and he's only standing about 2 feet away from the boat. He's just doing. He'd come back and he'd pack it up. He's 6 hours he'd spend doing this stuff, and he'd take that one sheet of film down and have it processed, and there'd be all these people on the beach.
Stuff. Yeah,
It was so cool.
so good.
So cool.
The second the second book I want to share is Alex Timmermans. He's currently alive. He's a wet plate photographer. I'm so obsessed with this guy. He's the kind of guy where you walk into your studio and you look at all the stuff you've done. You're like, I'm just going to set everything on fire because this is like, it doesn't get any better than this. So he does like these illustrative pictorial wet plates. So he comes up with these whole ideas, and it's all one shot because it's just one piece of wet plate.
He's actually shooting it on wet plate.
He is actually shooting giant. So these are like 1-to-1 reproductions. So he's shooting them on
8x10 wet plate. Oh my God.
And he does this whole stuff where he like, there's like ones with dudes on motorcycles, and he's so good, but it's just, I love the idea of like, he's got like a butler that's out, up to his waist in water. And it's just, they're so gorgeous. They're so gorgeous. And he's still putting out, this was he kickstarted a book. Look at this one. This is crazy. So like he gets this guy out there with like fake wings, and he's got a stuffed owl up there, and it's so illustrative. It's just beautiful.
Wow.
And I've never seen anybody like doing stuff like that. Like a lot of people are, like doing portraits and everything, but this guy is he's so good. And I just wanted to share it. Like just more people need to know about him.
What is his name?
Good. Alex Timmermans. And he's got a website and everything. And then this is the book that he came out with. It's called Storytelling. And I think it's pretty extensive. I think it's most of his work up until last year or something like that. And he's exhibiting he's one of these guys. He's got exhibits everywhere, and he sells, like fine art reproductions of his scans and stuff.
If you're doing something that nobody else can do, oh my God. Google him,
so
folks.
Good.
Jeez.
So good.
You're doing something like that, you just set yourself so far apart.
Right. You just find that one thing, and you just find the right audience, and you're just like, you're all set.
Chasing birds.
Oh.
I put a link in the chat window that has the it's Hemmings.com, and it's got some behind the scenes pictures from Michael Paul Smith, and it shows where it's got like his set there, and it shows a couple of the cars, but then it shows you like, I put the link in the chat window if you want to.
Yeah, he's so good.
Then it shows the picture that he took, but I see what you're talking about. Like, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's all like, and if you see his cameras, he's just using like little point and shoots, because he's not a photographer, but he just figured out like, this is what I want to do, and I need to somehow document it. And so he just bought like a thing at Best Buy, and it's just a little point and shoot camera.
That's cool.
But it's so good. Like just the world that he has created in his mind, and he's trying to share it with people.
Here's Alex's camera for those of you guys who are looking for
look at that.
Sort of a everyday carry camera.
Oh,
yeah.
Right?
They make a strap. Yeah, they make a strap. I think Think Tank makes a strap for that.
Got a wheel on it. What are you complaining about? Come on.
Did he update the firmware?
So good. Look how good that's. Oh.
Yeah, the rollers are what makes it happen.
Man, oh man.
And that's like, even when I, I get calls, people are looking for, even when it comes to like portrait photography and stuff, I get calls about price inquiries and stuff. And I tell them, the first thing I tell them is like, if you haven't been on my website, go on my website and take a look. I want, it doesn't matter if you work with me or not. I want, like, when I look at, Elgin Park, or I look at somebody else's work, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, this guttural, like, oh, And that's what I want clients to have. Like, even if you don't like, I want you to go through websites and I want you to find somebody's work where you're just like, oh my God. And that's, you know, like, I don't even know what I'm trying to explain. I'm just blabbing, but, you know, like the takeaway is, you know, like I get calls all the time and then people are basing it surely on price or budget or whatever. And part of me is just like, no, like you want to find somebody where you're going through a bunch of websites and you get to that one thing and you're just like, holy shit, like this is so good. Like this is so good. And then reach out and contact that person. And you know, I've lost clients because I've said that, but I'm like, I want you to go to somebody where it's just like you're practically getting like a stomach ache because it's you're just responding so well to the work. And to me, that's like the perfect marriage.
And that's one of the things that I think commercial photographers have to be very, very careful that we don't hurt ourselves or kill ourselves with the stress of it all, because you go down that commercial route, you're going to be doing a lot of pictures of towels and forklifts and, you know, so that's why I'm constantly saying, do those personal projects.
Yep.
Do those projects, those things where you go, oh God, this is what I love to do. Think of that as your mission. And the commercial photography, the towels, the bed and breakfast, the food service brochure, that's your side hustle.
Yep.
That's your side. That's how you use your skills to make money, because it's still better than getting a job as an accountant somewhere or, you know, digging a ditch 45 hours a week so that you can shoot one day a week.
Yep.
You know, let's put everything in perspective.
And chances are you'll get gigs based on if you're showing personal work. If you're shooting the stuff you really love, you'll get jobs off of it, because people want to make sure that, you know, this piece of gray matter that you have, like you can do stuff with it rather than just like show up and, you know, be an automated button pusher.
And if you don't do those things, you'll be an automated button pusher, but your stuff will eventually just go stale as hell.
Yeah.
And I shared space with a photographer for 5 years, and he developed this, if they're not paying me, I don't shoot. He would brag about it. Yeah, I don't take my cameras home on the weekends. Right. It's just what he adopted that as his mentality. I will not tell you today whether he's a photographer or not, but the last time I met him, he put a porch on the back of my house. Yeah, he's not doing photography anymore. It burned him out. He burned himself out on it.
Yeah.
Because he
it's
lost
hard.
the thrill, the excitement of making something special.
And it's also hard to turn what you love into sharing that as a photograph. Like a lot of people are like, well, I don't understand how how do I get clients and how do I do this? And how they're so worried about all of that they're not, you need to turn around and you need to introspectively look inside yourself. And it's just like, you know what? I'm into toys, I'm into puppets, I'm into music, and I'm into lightsabers, and I'm into all kinds of crap. I love that stuff so much that I need to figure out how to photograph that stuff and share it, because that is part of what makes me who I am. And that's what part of makes me unique from any other photographer on the planet. Like everybody sees differently. And I think it's because of all of these things that we've had experience with our entire lives. And that could be movies you watched or books you've read or thimbles you collect or plants that you've put in the garden. Like take that stuff that you're really passionate about and figure out how you can be like, I love this stuff so much. I want to photograph it and I want to share it with everybody. And I think that's the way to that's how you got to keep going. You got to, it's who you are that makes you unique.
Yes.
And all the shit that you're into, photograph that stuff and share it and be like, I love this stuff. And I'm trying to, just let people have a little bit more information about who you are and what makes you.
That's what, if you want to look at it from a purely commercial standpoint, you have to do it because that's what your clients are looking for. Right. That really is what they're looking for. They're going to look for your most creative stuff. They'll hire you to shoot towels and bird cages, but they want to hire somebody who's really creative, even though the job at hand may not call for that much creativity. It may be purely technique, keeping everything in focus or getting all the colors right on the food and all that stuff, purely technical, but they want to hire you because they're blown away by what you do. So you have to stay up on those personal projects.
Yeah.
Review of art directors a couple of years ago. I want to say it was a photo editor did it. I think he sent out a interview questionnaire to 150 art directors, got about 80 back. And they said the first thing they look at is the about page, and the second thing they look at is your projects, your personal projects.
Yep.
And I find photographer after photographer with no about page or a boring one and no personal projects. And all I can tell you is you're going about it the exact wrong way.
Right. Yeah.
Well, this was fun. Thank you, everybody.
I just wanted to mention, Don, I picked up a copy of Phoenix Home and Garden, which has an annual edition of its masters of this, that, and the other thing. So the master of photography is Art Holman. And there's an 8-page spread of his stuff.
Wonderful. Art's a great guy.
What?
Art's a great guy.
Yeah, I know you know him. I picked it up, I saw it. So I thought you'd really like to,
I'll check it out.
It's 8 pages in sepia landscapes.
Wonderful. Lauren, are you there? Lauren?
There he is.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
No, that's not the lens, sir. No.
Nope.
You want the 24 to 120 f4.
F4. Okay.
This is an S AFS. This is is it the AFS Nicors? Aren't those crop sensor lenses, folks?
No, that's DX.
The DX. Okay. This is just it's a beginner level lens. It's probably very good for beginner level lens, but no, hold out for the 24 to 120 f4.
F4.
It's probably gonna run you somewhere between 400 and 500 used, but you'll just absolutely adore it. So
okay, very good.
Everyone, thank you so much. It was fun. See you next time.
Thank you, Dan.
Have a good weekend.
Talk to y'all.
Bye.
All right.